Hello everyone, Rudolph Vomit, and today I would like to present to you what I have recently acquired, the third mark of excellence on the Charioteer. And yes, this is the first tank I have actually 3 marked. My American Tier 8 T-34 has around 91%, but that's 91%, not 95%. And if any of you have been grinding marks of excellence, or have attempted to grind marks of excellence, you'll know that getting 3 marks is one pain to get to. I didn't realize it would be as hard as it would be. I thought it would be like a simple XP grind. But the thing about experience is that for every battle you play, you're going to gain experience regardless. I mean, unless you don't load into the match, then you probably won't earn a single experience. But there's never a time in World of Tanks where you lose experience. That is, unless you spend it on something. So for marks of excellence, however, that is not the case, and if you do poorly in a match, poorly enough, you can drop a bit, or significantly on a mark of excellence. And when you're grinding that last third mark, sometimes if you've attempted this, you'll feel like you're dropping more than you're actually gaining. And so, I'm no veteran at this game, and I'm not the best player on the planet, and I'm not very good, so to speak, when it comes to marks of excellence, but I am going to provide you guys with some things, strategies that I was using to get my third mark. Anyways, this is the Charioteer, and I'm going to talk about this tank before I start talking about the 3 marks. So if you want to get to the 3 marks, you're going to have to skip a little later in the video. A Charioteer is kind of a hybrid of a Centurion 7-1 and a Comet. Yeah, that sounds like a really weird combination. It absolutely has no gun depression or turret armor, so you can immediately check that off your list of things to acquire with tank destroyers, because this thing has absolutely no armor. 20 and 30 millimeters of armor. That's as much as you're going to get on the turret. And on the tank, yeah, forget about it. This is a Comet hull after all. But it's not the armor that counts for this tank. It's, for the most part, the maneuverability and the gun you get on this tank. Now, when you do first unlock the Charioteer, it comes with that really crappy gun you get on the AT-15, which is its stock gun and first and second package upgraded gun, which, you know, sadly enough is the top gun that you can get on the AT-15, but the AT-15 is another cup of tea, and a cup of tea that for me came out a bit more sour than I would have liked it. But it's when you unlock that third package on the Charioteer with that 105mm gun that you get on the Centurion 7-1 that the Charioteer really starts to become a tank destroyer. And, well, it's not exactly a tank destroyer, because when it does come to the rate of fire and damage per minute of this tank is better than the Centurion 7-1's, and it wields the same gun a tier lower, which is fantastic. However, it does come at the cost of accuracy and aim time, gun handling stuff. But besides that, it does have better DPM on paper than the Centurion 7-1. The damage per minute is 2,416. It is a 105mm gun, so you will be doing 390 alpha damage with every shot, with 268mm of standard APCR round penetration. That is right, you fire APCR as standard on this thing. Take a look at the Charioteer's ammunition loadout. There are 2 slots for high explosive. One slot is HESH, and the other slot is regular high explosive. That's right, you cannot fire gold in the Charioteer, which could be argued that it's better because, you know, when you fire gold, well, cheating on the mark of excellence game. When you absolutely need to kill someone and fire gold, I mean, sure, fire away, but if you don't even need to press A to switch to any other ammo because all you're firing is gold, then I seriously will have a problem with you. The reload time, and this, remember, this is stock out. Once you start pimping out your tanks, you guys know this kind of stuff goes down. But the stock reload time that you'll get on this tank is around 10 seconds, 9.68 to be more specific. you get 6.2 rounds a minute, and you're stuck with 2.35 seconds aim time, with 0.34 accuracy, which isn't that bad. But the bloom of this gun is, well, if you've ever played a turreted tank destroyer, you'll know that gun bloom is a serious issue. That's the price you pay for playing a turreted tank destroyer. So the gun bloom of this thing is wicked, but you can get over it. So that aim time may be a little more around 2.7 seconds instead of 2.3. You know, that's just my opinion after playing this tank for very many battles. How many battles do I have in this tank? Oh geez, you guys are gonna see all my statistics. 168. Yeah, that's a fair amount of battles in the Charioteer. It took me to get 3 marks. Alright, the shell velocity, however, on this tank is very impressive. 1,478 meters a second is nothing to scoff at. These APCR shells will travel very quickly. Mark my words when I say APCR shells, because this thing can fire those HESH shells, and those HESH shells will have substantially less shell velocity. From no lead at all to having to lead like if you were playing a Death Star, where you do fire HESH more often than not. And if you don't, well, then you might want to reconsider why you have the Death Star. The Charioteer's ammo count is 30 rounds. You play the Charioteer, you may feel it's a little bit lackey, which only puts your potential damage at around 12,000, 11,700 to be exact, which is a juicy amount of damage if you get all those rounds out. But that's a pretty big if, and that's a pretty tall order. Now moving on to the mobility of the Charioteer, and this is where the Charioteer is also a special tank. The top speed of this tank is 52 kilometers an hour. That is very quick for a tier 8 tank destroyer. The reverse speed is 20 kilometers an hour, which again is, you know, pretty decent. The horsepower of this tank is 650, and this tank being not the heaviest tank in the game puts it at a 21.47 horsepower to weight ratio, which is a very good weight ratio for a tank destroyer. The tank's reverse second is 37.54, which is pretty good considering it has a comet hull. However, you will be disappointed by the turret traverse a second, since it's a turreted tank destroyer, which is a sad 18.39. Turret is traversing 4 to 5 degrees faster than a T-95 would turn. That's pretty freaking slow. The Batshat 15558, that turreted artillery, turns almost as fast as your turret does, which is pretty tragic, but you pay a lot of prices for playing a turreted tank destroyer. In the end, it can put you at an advantage. This thing can play like a medium tank when you find a heavy that's slow enough and can't get his gun around, or perhaps a big enough heavy tank to point down on you. This tank is relatively short in size compared to perhaps its older brother, the Conway, which turns into the ship barn, which is enormous. So this thing's a pretty slick tank, especially compared to other tanks like the AT-15. This thing has very good camo rating, which I'll bring up later. Gun elevation and gun depression. We're seeing that the Charioteer has relatively 12 degrees of gun elevation and 10 degrees of gun depression. Now, personally speaking, that doesn't always seem like it's a true factor, and to be honest, I don't believe those are actually the statistics of the tank after playing it for this long, but I guess we're just gonna have to go with that for now. As I said before, don't rely on the armor. On the hull, you got 64 millimeters at the front, 46 at the side, and 38 at the rear. You can barely side scrape in this tank, so don't even try it, because the turret armor is 30 at the front, 25 at the side, and 30 at the rear. Maybe you'll get lucky and an HE shot will hit your, quote, mantlet, or maybe the front of your hull and not fully penetrate, but don't rely on your armor at all, because it will not hold up for absolutely anything. Hit points on this tank are 1050, which, when an average tier 8 tank destroyer has around 1,000, possibly 30, then 1050 is a fair amount, and it's a survivable amount, But when you are in a higher tier matchup, make sure you play your tank very carefully, as those hit points can absolutely evaporate. Personally speaking, that has happened 2 times too many. And even when you are in a good matchup and you are top tier and whatnot, you still should be very, very cautious. This tank requires a lot of patience to play, as obviously it has no armor, very good camo value, as well as maneuverability. This tank is a completely 100% stealth tank destroyer, so I don't suggest you play it in any other way unless you absolutely have to, which more often than not you probably won't, because you can play this tank as a medium tank. I suggest you don't, and you know, it can be argued that you can play any tank and any role, but use your heads, people. Don't play a Charioteer as a heavy tank. That's not going to end well. Charioteer stock out has around 17 camo level stationary, 10 on the move, and 3.6 after a shot. Let's just call that 4. However, if you include the vehicle camo specific to the Charioteer, which I don't understand is any different from the tank itself, but I guess according to World of Tanks it is, the camo level stationary jumps up to 21, on the move jumps up to 15, and after shot jumps up to 5. Now, if you include 100% camo crew in this tank, then the stationary jumps up to 36, the on the move jumps up to 23, and after a shot jumps up to 8. Now, if you put Vince on this tank, you don't really do much. It more or less just jumps up the value after shot by 0.3. So let's not include that. Now on Xbox, if you have noticed, there are 3 very unique perks that you can get only on Xbox and PS4, I believe, which is Green Thumb, Silent Driving, and Muffled Shot. Now, if you have all 3 of those, plus everything I mentioned previously, your stationary camo value is still going to be at 36. On the move, however, is going to jump up to 30, and after shot is going to jump up to 10. And if you're hiding in a bush with full density, a very, very dense bush, then your stationary jumps up to 90, on the move jumps up to 82, and after shot jumps up to 72. So if you fully pimp this tank out with everything camo, as you can see in my camo little corner, and you have camo net, all that, you're sitting in a fat bush, you probably will not be spotted at all. Period. End of game. Now, if the bush is less than 15 meters away, your after shot value is gonna drop down to 22. That's a drop by 50. But that's still a very significant amount. And if you are willing to suck it up and have some frame drop when you shoot at people and sit in a very thick bush, then you will probably be having a very good game. That is, if RNG doesn't tie you over and give you horrible shots. So, I guess that's enough about the Charioteer. And let's move on to a little bit of tips and tricks that I thought when I was getting my 3rd mark of excellence. Now, of course, like I said before, this is my first tank I've 3 marked, so a lot of you will probably critique me for not being that experienced at the game. But as far as getting marks of excellence are concerned, on a basic level, know your tank. I mean, if you're gonna want to get a tank to 2 marks, more or less 3 marks, you really gotta know how to play the tank. And for the Charioteer, that's being very patient, being sneaky, and more oftentimes than not, pointing your turret around the back of your tank so you can make a sneaky getaway. Because remember, this tank does have around 21 to 22 horsepower per weight ratio, meaning you can get away relatively quickly. It's a Comet with a little bit of a modified gun and turret, basically, is how I like to think of it. And vastly more sneaky. So, if you're playing the Charioteer, play very, very patiently and sneaky. Never be on the front lines, obviously. I'd say follow your mediums and stay at a range where the enemy, obviously, 1, won't be able to spot you, and 2, if you are near any bushes, they will definitely not be able to spot you. Getting 3 marks takes a lot of time, and you're gonna have to be exceeding yourself almost better than you did the previous match. So for example, if you are at your second mark and you are 90% of the way, you've done 3,000 damage and you went up a percent. In order not to go down a percent, you'd have to do 3,000 or 3,100 damage as you progress forward. Now, that's not the general rule. I've gotten away with doing a little bit less damage, but you want to do consistently well in your tank, and as far as those missions that put you at the top 3 or 5 players in the match are concerned, you're going to want to think of doing that every single time consecutively if you want to get your third mark on any tank. Now, for some tanks, it will be a lot harder to get a mark of excellence on. But unlike other tanks, the Charioteer can't fire gold. So if you really want to try to get that third mark, you can fire gold. That is how you do more damage consistently, as opposed to missing and bouncing all the time. It just, for me, feels dirty. And when you play the Charioteer, obviously, you can't fire gold. So, by that sense, I didn't feel that dirty when I was grinding my third mark of excellence. However, the camo values and whatnot did feel a little bit unfair, but, well, it wasn't at a point where I was completely unstoppable. Yet. Obviously, as the third mark goes, for example with experience, you continue to get experience. You will always gain experience, like I mentioned at the beginning. You can drop percent in marks of excellence, and depending on how crappily you do in a match, you will drop significantly more, or depending on how well obviously you do in a match, you will gain more. But when you're going for the third mark of excellence and you start to reach over that 90%, whenever you do very well in a match, you'll go up by 0.5% probably, and whenever you do poorly in a match, you'll drop by a full percent, if not a full 2%. So really play it safe in your tanks when you're playing and trying to get that third mark, and especially if you're not playing a tier 10 machine where you can be the ladder tank, then definitely play it very, very safe. You don't want to lose all your hit points and do no damage by the time the match is over. You want to do as much damage as you can without losing as many hit points as you can. Now that sounds like a fair rule of play just in general, but when you're getting your third mark, you really want to stress that. You don't want to be trading your hit points aimlessly. Hell, you want to try to conserve your hit points as much as possible. Don't trade if you don't have to, and don't take the risk if you don't have to. There will always be another shot, and there will always be another time in the match. For the most part, guys, I guess that's really it. I mean, for getting a third mark, know your tank, know your strengths and weaknesses. Play patiently. Don't rush it. You can lose progress on your marks, and you can drop percents on your marks. It's not experience. It's not infinite. You won't get it every single time guaranteed you play a match. Most importantly, enjoy the tank that you're grinding your 3 marks for. I mean, if you're grinding 3 marks on a tank that you don't like, then you're not going to have a fun time. You're not going to want to show off those 3 marks. So play a tank that you like to play, and play it because you want 3 marks. Because you thoroughly and authentically want 3 marks on that tank that you love to play, and you're going to show to the world when you get your 3 marks of excellence. Don't get it just to get it. I mean, the grind will be 100% harder. And if you do actually manage to get 3 marks on that tank, you probably won't ever touch it again because you didn't like playing it in the first place. So get 3 marks on a tank that means something to you. Get 3 marks on a tank that's made its way into your heart, and that's going to be one of your children for all eternity. Anyways, guys, that's enough of me rambling on. So, let's see what the Charioteer can do. And this was actually before I had my 3 marks on the Charioteer. This was a game I had when, obviously, I had 2 marks. However, I felt the need to show this replay because this replay shows a lot of strengths of the Charioteer and a lot of ways I practiced being patient and earning my 3rd mark on the Charioteer. So obviously this is Westfield. I'm making my way up to kind of where the hill drops off into the valley, and as you can see, I automatically, first thing I do is turn my tank around so I can pull out if need be. Now, I fast forwarded a little bit because there hasn't been a lot of action. For the first part of this match. It was basically just me setting up. And that Cromwell B, he's on the move, but with 1400, 1500 meters per second of shell velocity, you don't need to give a lot of lead, even to hit a light tank going at max speed on the move, as you can see there. First blood. I'm using the bushes here to my advantage. I'm backing up slowly, as fast as I can, but slowly to make sure that I can control the advance, and if need be, I can get away if I am detected, because I do know that a lot of tank destroyers like to go to this position, and as it is a tier 8 match, there was a T-28 prototype on their team. He could be lingering around here. Guess we'll figure that out later. Anyways, I'm trying to provide some support for the valley. Don't have any shots on that 131. I think that Motherland will do, though. It's kind of unfortunate that I didn't record this live, meaning that you won't be able to see me zoom in and zoom out and whatnot. But you will be able to get an idea of where I'm pointing my gun and what I'm focusing my attention on. Now, I feel like the north of this map is controlled, and since this is assault, I can afford to sit here for a good amount of time. In fact, I could choose to sit here for the next 7 minutes if need be. So, oh, there's a tank destroyer, an AT-8. Let's see what we can do to him. Our 268mm of penetration on our Hesh rounds will have no problem whatsoever going through the front of that tank. Looks like some tanks are being spotted by the middle towards us, but it doesn't seem like they've actually seen us yet. I don't know what that E8 was thinking doing on the bridge in a tier 6 in a bottom tier match, but, well, you know, to each his own, right? 440, that's actually a very good roll. I would be surprised to see those numbers on a Hesh round, let alone an APCR round as standard. See if we can finish off this Tiger 131 if he backs out. Yep, we can. That shell velocity is so nice on the Charioteer. It's like a laser cannon. You don't need to lead at all. This T-3485, yes, he is going to detect us, so we're going to shoot him and pull away since we are pointing our tank forward. Or backward, I guess, in this scenario. Now, the T-3485, since we did score a hit on him, we can, or we may be able to kill him in one more shot. So I'm trying to get around here to finish him off. We get him. But the T-28 prototype is to my left, and that KV-2, which I didn't notice at the moment, is actually using the 107, and I didn't realize that he'd fired either, so I freaked out and tried to rip a shot and get away, and I realized the T-28 prototype is over there, so I turn around. I actually don't know if I'm spotted right now. I probably am. The T-28 had just fired. I ricochet a shot off of the top of his turret, or the mantlet of his tank, and now I'm going to try to reverse side scrape, which do not do this, but it's a lot easier to expose less of my tank since I am a front-mounted tank, and if I were to pull out, or pull out front on, I would expose a lot more of my tank. Take a 475 big hit from that prototype, but it looks like we're going to be able to finish him off. And I'm still terrified of that KB2 because I don't realize that he has the 107 until about now, and he just fired. Yep, there we go. And it occurs to me that that's not the sound of the 152. So I put a good round into him, and I'm feeling confident taking another hit from him, so I poke out a little bit, he misses, and I get to finish him off. So good effect, good effort. Now I'm going to use the mobility of the Charioteer to push north and assist the people fighting the rest of the team that is pushed north, since it seems the valley has cleaned itself up and done its own duty. And with the great power to weight ratio on this tank, cleanup duty is not that big of a deal. Cleanup duty is especially fun when you are a fast tank destroyer and you know, wait for other people on your team to spot for you and then you clean up the mess. And kill steal a bit. Maybe damage steal a bit. Well, damage stealing isn't as bad as kill stealing, in my opinion. It's more annoying to kill steal. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? 3 tanks left. And if you look at my ammo loadout, you will see that the Charioteer does tend to run a little low on ammo towards the end of the match. So you conserve your ammo well, use your shots effectively during the match. By the end, it'll all pay off. ISU 130, definitely one-shot kill. I'll take the time to aim on that one. There's a big bad OI over here. And if I do recall, he is most definitely using the derp gun. We spot him, back off. Lucky he didn't fire. He probably wouldn't have hit us, but we're very lucky that he didn't fire. So let's go around this way and see if we can mess with this guy a little bit. Let's see if we can get him to fake his shot. And that is the signal. Let's go in and finish this bad boy. He will definitely not be able to reload before I can kick my Comet side into gear, become a medium tank, and take him out. Hell, I don't think he'd even be able to shoot me. So there you go. Radley Walters medal on the Charioteer. 17 penetrating shots. Pretty good game. This was not the game that got me my 3rd mark of excellence, but I feel that it was necessary to share this one. I really enjoyed grinding the Charioteer, and you guys should too if you're grinding your 3rd mark of excellence on any tank. It's a universal rule. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know it's a long video, and I know it's been a while since I've posted. I just recently got back from spring break. Hope you guys are having a nice spring break. Hope you guys are having a nice year so far. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.